Ladies and gentlemen, you are now entering the Decent Christian Talk podcast. Enjoy.
What's up? It's a Decent Christian Talk podcast. We are here getting ready for one of the biggest festivals in Christian music. Actually, it is the biggest music festival. But before we get to that, I need to talk about Soul Fuel, West Virginia. For any of you that are in the area of Morgantown, West Virginia, or in the Pittsburgh area, even in Columbus, and other locations close to that, you need to check this out. If you like David Crowder, does anybody like David Crowder, Colton Dixon, Tripoli, Mary, they will all be there at this festival. You'll need to check it out. Got a nice little thing to announce for those that want to attend and haven't bought tickets. Sunday, July 3rd. If you purchase your tickets by midnight on Sunday, July 3rd, you'll be entered into a contest for automatic VIP upgrade, which includes a meet and greet with one of the artists that are at Soul Fuel, plus you get a meet and greet with Pittsburgh Steelers running back Le'Veon Bell and wide receiver Marcus Wheaton. So you'll definitely want to check that out. Marcus Wheaton is really good. Le'Veon Bell might be one of my favorite players in the NFL, so that's fun for me. You guys will want to check that out. Soul Fuel, West Virginia, soulfuelwv.com. If you haven't got your tickets yet, you want to get that by July 3rd. The event itself is July 22nd through the 24th, so if you're wanting to check that out, you'll definitely want to do that. As far as the largest Christian music festival in the world, CreationFest, is coming up. Decent Christian Talk will be not only at Soul Fuel, West Virginia, but they'll also be at CreationFest. So come out and check that out. Come hang out with us. We're going to be doing interviews all week. We may even do some interviews with some fans, if you guys will check that out. I don't know, maybe you guys would want to be a part of that. Maybe you could be on the very next podcast. Who knows? Before we get to that, I want to mention a couple records that have come out. And we have to mention NF. He just released a record called Therapy Session, which is one of the best hip-hop albums of the year so far. We're kind of hitting up on the... We're almost done with the first half of 2016. So you guys will definitely want to check that out. The social club Misfits, they released an EP. It's actually their Capitol Records debut, which is a big deal. It's called the Misfit Generation EP. You guys will definitely want to check that out. Seth and Nerva, for those of you that are Toby Mac fans, Nerva is the soul singer of the Diverse City Band, and they just released a record called Never Alone, which is really good. It's a worshipful album. Toby Mac actually makes an appearance on the album. It's very good. It's released on Integrity Records, so you guys would definitely want to check that out. Sherwood, band from the past, one of the bands that I used to listen to back in the day, released a new album just last week called Some Things Never Leave You. We actually interviewed Dan from Sherwood as when he was a member of Pacific Gold. He still is a member of Pacific Gold, but we interviewed him based on the album that they put out last year. But if you like kind of the 90s alternative rock, kind of West Coast rock and roll, You definitely will want to check out this Sherwood album. It's really good. Speaking of West Coast rock and roll, Starflyer 59 released a record called Slow. And Starflyer 59 was one of my favorite Tooth and Nail bands from the 90s. So this was something that I definitely was looking forward to, and it did not disappoint. This has been one of my favorite bands of the last 20 years, and they did not disappoint with this release. It's only, I think, an 8-song record, so, I mean, that aspect might be a little bit disappointing, but, man, the Martin Brothers, they're always on top of, always putting out music that is still relevant. 1,000 Foot Krutch, another band that has been around a while, released a record called Exhale. I've actually not even listened to this album yet. But I've heard it. I've heard that it goes back to their roots a little bit with the rock. Their last record was a little bit mellow for, I think, a lot of their fans. And I think this record went back to the rock and roll that people like. But don't take my word for it, because I've not gotten to listen to it yet. Hopefully I will soon. Called Exhale. You want to check that out. An album that I have listened to that I think might be one of my favorites of the year so far is by Thrice. It's called To Be Everywhere Is To Be Nowhere. For those of you that are Dustin Kensrue fans, Dustin Kensrue was the worship leader at the now defunct Mars Hill, and he released a few worship records, but Thrice was a band that he was with before all that. They went on a hiatus, but they're back with this album. It's a killer rock and roll album for those of you that are into that, which I definitely am. But you guys want to check that out. They're going on tour this fall. They're going to be in my area in September, in the Pittsburgh area. I think they're going to a couple other shows in Philly, up and down the East Coast. And I'm sure they'll be hitting up some West Coast because that's where they're from. So you guys will definitely need to check that out. A couple other tours coming up this fall. Switchfoot and Reliant K are getting back together to do a tour, which will be really fun because both of the bands are releasing records really soon. So that they're both going to have new music for that tour. And we'll talk about that new music coming up here in a little bit. Hillsong. They announced recently, within the past couple of days, that they are finally going to release this movie that we've been hearing about for so long. I don't really know what to expect. This has been on the back burner for, I want to say, 2 or 3 years now, and they've just not been able to get a distributor to put it in theaters. But I guess they have one now, or I don't know what kind of level it will be. I don't know if it will be a wide release. I don't know if it will be in limited amount of theaters. My guess is it will be in limited amount of theaters. You know, maybe it'll show up on Netflix eventually, the way the Switchfoot documentary did. But I'm definitely looking forward to that. I really dig Hillsong. I really love the music that they've put out. And I think this is basically touching up on Hillsong itself. So there may not be anything like Hillsong Young and Free included in this, especially since this has been, I think this was filmed a few years ago, before Hillsong Young and Free really took off. So you guys will definitely want to check that out. There's a couple records coming soon. Some even this week as we're recording this. King's Kaleidoscope, which was another band that came from the Mars Hill Church. They're releasing a record called Beyond Control. They're actually, I'm not real sure about this, but there's actually going to be 2 versions of this record that are going to be released. And I've heard one of the versions has an explicit lyric song on it. And that's all I know about it. I don't know anything else. I've not gotten to listen to it ahead of time. So, I mean, listen at your discretion. Spoken, another rock and roll band. They've got a record coming out soon. They have not really announced a date for that yet, but we'll definitely be checking that out. They're one of my favorite rock and roll bands. Silent Planet, which is basically a metal band. They're releasing a record, I think, in early July. You guys will want to check that out. We've had Silent Planet on our website before, so this is definitely one of our website's favorite, DecentChristianTalk.com, one of our favorite artists. House of Heroes, honestly, one of the most underrated bands in Christian music. They're going to be releasing a record called Callers in early July. I've heard a couple tracks off this album already. It is absolute gold. And honestly, House of Heroes, they have, honestly, one of my favorite records of all time, with The End Is Not the End, which came out almost 10 years ago. But I expect to hear more music along the lines of that album. So I'm excited for that release. Switchfoot is releasing a record called Where the Light Shines Through. That is also coming out in early July. I've actually gotten to listen to this entire record. And I have to say, it's probably a little bit more mellow than what we're used to. But it is their 10th record, and it is another record that is an absolute gold album. But I have to admit that it did take me a few times to listen to the album to get into it. But having said that, after I did that, it's been on repeat along with the Thrice album. It's called Where the Light Shines Through. You guys will definitely want to check that out. Need to Breathe, another band that has toured with Switchfoot in the past. They are putting a record out called Hard Love. They're not my favorite band in the world, and I'll be honest with you. But this is a band that has really put a dent in the mainstream music field. And I respect that. I respect what they've done. I think they've done their own thing. They've not tried to be another sounding like band. They've just done their own thing, and I appreciate that about them, even though they're not my favorite band. Relient K, they are releasing a record called Air for Free. Fun little story about Relient K. My 29th birthday, they played in Pittsburgh. They played, it was actually the 10th anniversary tour for their record called And it was a night that I will not forget anytime soon. That was one of my, that's probably my favorite Relient K record of all time. And I hope that they kind of go back to that sound. I doubt that they will. I think they're going to continue on with the piano-driven music that they kind of, and maybe even a little bit more poppy. Kind of a mix of their last two albums is what I expect, which is okay. I mean, that's good. It's not my favorite Relient K that I like to listen to, but I'm definitely interested to see them on tour with Switchfoot. I'm going to try to catch that. They're actually going to be in Pittsburgh October 12th. I'm sorry that I keep on mentioning Pittsburgh, but that's my local area. That's what I know. Also, last but not least, Crowder just released a single called Run Devil Run. Crowder, he's going to be at Soul Fuel and CreationFest, so I'm going to get a double dose of him coming up in the next few weeks. But Crowder, he announced he has a record coming out, I think, in September. He's another guy that, man, he just does his own thing, and I love it. I don't know that I was necessarily a fan of his new single, Run Devil Run. I don't know. Maybe because I can't say that I've ever been a fan of his radio hits. I've always been a fan of the other stuff that he's done. all the other cuts on the album, but I can't say. I've always been a fan of his radio hits. They seem to always be my least favorite song on the album. But, obviously there's people that like it, and if you've not heard that, you need to go check it out. It's on YouTube, it's on Spotify, it's on iTunes. Go check that out. But like I mentioned before, Creation Festival, we'll be heading to that next week. We're going to be getting interviews from all kinds of bands. I don't want to confirm or jinx any of that, but we definitely are looking forward to that. I didn't get to go last year because my first son was born the same week as Creation last year. So my brothers did a great job of filling in, doing some interviews. I'll be doing a lot of the interviews this year. My brothers will also be helping. We've got a lot of them lined up. Creation Festival, for those of you that don't know, is in central Pennsylvania, near Altoona. So if you guys are in that area, even if you want to go head up for a day, the festival runs for 4 days. You've got all kinds of bands like Crowder, For King and Country, Michael W. Smith is going to be there, the Newsboys, Switchfoot, Andy Mineo, KB, Tadashi, just a lot of diversity. I'm looking forward to hearing, especially from those hip-hop artists on the main stage. It's something that we've not really seen other than Lecrae. So I'm glad that they've given them a chance to do that on the main stage this year. So you guys will definitely want to check that out. Creation is June 29th through July the 2nd, I believe. So you guys will definitely want to check that out if you're not already doing that already. And hey, if you run into us, maybe we'll have you on the next podcast. Just look for this guy with the beard. Who knows, I might even be wearing a DecentChristianTalk.com shirt. That'll be easy to point out. If you see someone with that on at Creation Fest, just, unless I'm trying to get my son to go to sleep, yeah, just come up and talk to me. I'd love to meet you guys. But definitely, guys, we're going to be doing a lot more podcasting in the future. We've had a lot of transitions in the last few months that have kind of cooled our jets a little bit, but we're excited to get back into it. We're going to be podcasting a lot more. Last but not least, I just wanted to say thank you for all the feedback on the last podcast we did, the DC Talk cruise reaction podcast that we did. Honestly, it wasn't an easy thing for me to do, but it was an honest reaction, and it was what I was feeling at the time. I can't say my feelings have changed since then. I'm glad the band is doing something. And just so you guys know, I'm cool with them. I still support them. I hope the thing sells out. I hope it's awesome for everyone that's there. And I just didn't want it. I just didn't want you guys to think that I was falling off the DC Talk bandwagon, because that's not the case. I will always support them. So thank you guys for joining us. We will be at Creation Fest. We'll be at Soul Fuel. Definitely check out soulfuelwv.com if you're in the area. Again, Colton Dixon, David Crowder, Chip Lee, Mary. If you're a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, it's a chance to meet Le'Veon Bell and Marcus Wheaton, two of the best players on the team. They're going to be big contributors this year, hopefully. But anyway, definitely looking forward to that. We'll see you guys next time.
Don't forget to tip your waiters and waitresses. Thanks.